Hola chicos, ¿cómo están? Bienvenido a Asuncion Paraguay. Yo soy Esteban, el Gen Z Expat, y hoy quiero hablarles sobre... Just kidding. Just kidding. This video will not be in Spanish, don't worry. I hope you questioned whether or not that was an AI translation. Or maybe your AI kicked in and made what I just said English anyways. And you didn't even realize that I tried to open up in Spanish. But we will be speaking about Spanish. Today's video is about how important is knowing Spanish for life in Asuncion, Paraguay. This is a topic that people have requested to me multiple times now, and I think it's going to be super, super useful for you guys who want to live here and want to get the most out of it. And essentially, what I want to do is break down multiple categories, right? Just your day-to-day stuff, right? Interacting with, day-to-day employees and workers and friends and just people, on the street, that sort of thing, right? Grocery store, coffee shop, gas station, Uber driver, Bolt driver, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to talk about, English proficiency there, how much you need Spanish, as well as more advanced things like big transactions, residency, real estate, renting an apartment, right? Also, your social life, making friends, your dating life, and dating the local girls as well. It's another thing where this is very important. And just give you guys an overall picture for an overall snapshot for the language climate in Asuncion at the moment. So if it sounds like something that'll be useful for you, stay tuned. This will be a very helpful video. My name is Esteban. I am an American expat living here in Asuncion, Paraguay. I have no plans of leaving this place. Subscribe to the channel if you want to find out some real in-depth information on how to assimilate here and then just how to build an incredible life, an incredible future for yourself. Subscribe and check out the rest of my content. And connect with me on Instagram at Esteban Expat. It's a great way to get in touch with me personally. And that's it. Let's go. So I'll start with this. Overall, if you've already traveled other parts of Latin America, assume that Paraguay is going to be on the lower end in terms of English proficiency. Most locals do not speak English. However, that's not to say that most locals that you encounter won't speak English. The overwhelming majority of the country speaks very, very little English. In terms of resources, in terms of education, schooling, English classes, stuff like that, just aren't quite as common as they are in other parts of Latin America, nor are they as adhered to, if that makes sense. A lot of people have maybe taken English classes in school, they didn't really pay attention, or just the curriculum wasn't very strict, and there just wasn't that much incentive for them to learn English. And people here, for their day-to-day lives, for getting their day-to-day needs met, they don't need it, so they don't have a lot that pushes them to change. However, reason why I say most locals that you speak to don't necessarily speak zero English is because chances are you are somebody who's going to be staying in Asuncion. So right away, we go from looking at all of Paraguay, which speaks very little English, to the population of Asuncion, which on average is more educated and speaks better English. And then within Asuncion, we look at the areas within Asuncion that you are statistically likely to be staying in based off of the demographics of my channel and who most of my subscribers are. Now, if you're somebody who wants to go live in the interior, yeah, you bet you're going to encounter very, very little English. If you want to go live in a small town, get a piece of land far away and just do your own thing, very little English will be spoken in those parts. However, there are still ways that you can do fine, and I'm going to get to that later in this video. What I'm getting at is that you might have already heard that Paraguay has very little English proficiency, but keep in mind, you're not living in all of Paraguay, you're living in Asuncion, and if you are living in Asuncion, you're probably living in one of the, or at least starting out in one of the, quote-unquote nicer or more expat-friendly areas of Asuncion, where English is going to be significantly more prevalent than the rest of the country. Now, with that in mind, where do you find zero English? Your typical just day-to-day tasks and when you're getting your day-to-day tasks done and you're dealing with, I don't want to say dealing with, that makes it sound bad. You're interacting with service industry workers, right? That's going to be, and I'm going to talk about friends later because that's so important. But when it comes to just day-to-day, if you're at the supermarket, if you're at Big E, your Uber driver, your Bolt driver, your coffee shop barista, just assume that they are going to have zero English. Because chances are they will. You might get your exception, but chances are they're going to have zero English. So what I recommend to you as somebody who doesn't speak any Spanish is learn your basics for those environments, right? You can worry about more advanced stuff later. Now I'm going to touch on that because on those environments, people tend to speak more English. You can worry about your social, making friends and dating later. But to start, it's going to be, okay, ¿dónde está el baño? Where's the bathroom? When you're ordering from a restaurant, yo quiero, right? I want. Gracias, por favor, thank you, please, permiso, excuse me, right? Those are your typical, just like navigating, navigating your restaurants, navigating your supermarkets, talking to the Bolt driver. That's going to be like your highest ROI in terms of learning Spanish in a way that you are going to need regardless of where you stay. Another thing, pricing, right? Learn numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 100,000, 100,000, right? When you're talking bills, 50,000, 50,000, 10,000, 10,000. ¿Cuánto cuesta? How much does it cost? ¿Tenés cambio? Do you have change? Right? Efectivo, cash, tarjeta, card. They will say forma de pago. You got to know that, right? Form of payment, tarjeta, card. Or efectivo, cash. Or they'll say transferencia. No, you just got here. You don't have a local bank account. You can't do transferencia. QR, right? QR code. That's where you scan a barcode with your phone and you pay directly from your bank account. You can't do that either because you don't have a local bank account. Factura, right? Factura is when they give you, it's essentially like a customized receipt that locals use to write off of their taxes. Another thing that's not going to apply to you for a very long time until you start filing here. But by then your Spanish is going to be much better anyways. What I'm getting at is learn those basic things, right? How to order, how to pay, yes, no, please, thank you, numbers, and then boom, you've got a lot of your bases covered. Because again, expect the service industry to not be able to communicate with you in English. Now, of course, body language and pointing and that sort of thing comes into play. But that's going to be, again, that's your highest ROI. That's where you should start. And, you can learn that on Duolingo. Pro tip. Go on ChatGPT, download the ChatGPT app, and use ChatGPT Voice. Makes a great Spanish tutor. It's not the best, but you hit the voice button and it'll say hello, right? You can talk to it. I mean, I use that shit for everything. I will ask it anything and everything if I need help with something specific. But you can tell it, here's a prompt. You say, I'm looking to learn Spanish and I want to have a conversation in Spanish with you and I want you to correct me whenever I make a mistake. And it will say, understood, ready when you are. And you say, hola, ¿cómo estás? Bien, ¿y vos? Right? It'll speak back to you. I also recommend, speaking of y vos, I recommend you program it to speak in Paraguayan Spanish. Really what that is Rio Platense Spanish, which is vos, not tú. I'm Puerto Rican, I speak in tú. Spaniards speak in tú. Mexicans speak in tú. Most of Latin America speaks in tú, right? Tienes instead of tenés. Quieres instead of querés. But here in Paraguay, they speak in vos. So they'll say, instead of you is tú, they'll say vos, right? That's another pro tip here. So when you hear that and you're like, what the heck did you say? That means you. And then program ChatGPT to speak to you with that conjugation so you can familiarize yourself with that vocabulary a little bit more. What else? So that's the service industry. Again, start there. Now keep in mind, there's another general rule. The younger someone is, the more likely they are to speak English. The older someone is, the less likely they are to speak English. Meaning, if you meet a Paraguayan who's, say, 25 in Asuncion, right, in your neighborhood of Asuncion, there's a good chance that they have learned English either through study in Paraguay, study abroad. That's very common for Paraguayans to study abroad and come back, or just through media, right? Online, music, memes, right? Their Instagram algorithm. I have a friend of mine who said he got really good at English by connecting to North American servers on CS 1.6. If you guys don't know, that's a shooter. It's a video game. And he would connect to North American servers and he would start speaking English. Pro tip, if you have fast Wi-Fi, your ping's gonna be a bit high and you're a gamer and you wanna start practicing your Spanish, connect to South American servers and play with Latin Americans online. That's a good way to just like practice your Spanish and talk to them. But yeah, that's more of a young person thing. Also, this is quite relevant when it comes to people who have studied abroad. The truth of the matter is, and this is pretty much universal across all of Latin America, the more wealthy someone appears to be, i.e. the higher social class they appear to be a part of, the more likely they are to be speaking English as well, right? That's just the way the world works. People with more resources tend to be more educated. They tend to have more time to educate themselves. They tend to have more resources to invest in that education. They tend to be able to travel more. Many younger Paraguayans from more well-to-do families, they might tell you, yeah, I lived in Kansas. Funny enough, Kansas, I use that as the example because a lot of them do go to Kansas. I lived in Kansas for 4 years in college. And then they come back and they speak incredible English. You're like, bro, how's your English so good? Yeah, I lived in Kansas. Or I lived in the United Kingdom. One of my best friends here got his degree in the United Kingdom. And he speaks with a British accent, and it's incredible. So yeah, that's another indicator, right? Obviously, don't judge people, right? Be open to everyone. That goes without saying. But as a general rule, have your eyes open for how that person presents themselves to potentially know how much English you can get away with if you need it. Your standard middle class Paraguayan, ages 35 or older, 40 or older, very little English. 25-year-old, wealthy family, educated, very high chance they speak English. Now, what else? So, getting important stuff done, that's a different topic. Residency, real estate, renting an apartment, banking, purchasing a car, renting a car, these types of things, generally people are going to speak better English. However, dang, 1 second. Beautiful, refreshing tereré I have right here. I don't have that much water because I don't want to drink that much, but I've got my yuyos in here. Bro, yuyos are the best. When you get here and you start drinking tereré, you put the yuyos in the water, it makes it so much better. It's like herbs that you put in the water. Anyways, if you need to get something important done, like I said, things that involve money, things that involve contracts, things that involve transactions, things that involve the government. Yes, you're more likely to find professionals that speak English. However, I still recommend you A, improve your Spanish, or B, if you need to get something very important done on a short period of time, bring a trusted contact with you who speaks both languages. That can be a foreigner who speaks good Spanish. That can be a local who speaks good English. I represent the former, right? So I help friends out with this stuff all the time. And let's just say, for example, you want to tour an apartment. The agent might speak good English. I still recommend you bring someone with you who speaks good Spanish to maybe look at a couple of them and help you read through the contract when it comes time to sign it. Reason being, unfortunately, a part of the downside of Paraguay is there is still relatively little English, and those who do speak it sometimes lose things in translation when they're talking to you. And though not super common, it is just something to be careful of anywhere in Latin America. Sometimes they will try to charge more or get extra favors or just go get a little bit more out of you than they might typically get out of the normal client, knowing the fact that you are a foreigner, you likely have more resources, and you're less familiar with the way things actually work. So having someone with you who knows how things work and knows some Spanish is going to be good for those important things. What else? Social life. You're fine. You're fine. Learn Spanish. Learn Spanish. Learn Spanish. However, you will likely meet enough fellow foreigners. I mean, you're going to meet a bunch of them. I've talked extensively on my channel before about how to meet friends and ways to meet foreigners. I host events often. If you reach out to me directly and you seem like a cool person, I can get you connected with a lot of good people. Well, foreigners and locals. I have a large network of both. Thankfully, I do speak both languages, right? But you're going to have a lot of foreigner friends, and you're going to meet a lot of locals who speak good English. So you will have enough friends to keep you entertained. It's not like you're going to come here without Spanish and then just be like, dang, I have like one friend and everybody else I can't build a relationship with and I can't build a connection with because I don't speak the language. Like, no, you're going to have plenty of a social life as long as you make an effort to meet people. You'll be fine. Now, making friends with Paraguayans who are more, I don't want to say more Paraguayan, but I'll just use that for the sake of explanation, being from the interior, from the middle class, right? More like getting more of that deep-rooted, authentic experience culturally. Yes, you will require more Spanish. But think of that as like level 2. Your level 1 is getting here and being able to get your daily needs met and purchase the things you need to purchase and live in a nice apartment and eat food and have enough friends to where you're not bored. You're fine. Learn that very, very basic level and you'll be okay. However, you should keep progressing. Dating. Yeah, you need Spanish. You don't need it. You really, really should have it. I'm going to do a whole separate video on dating here in the near future. A lot of you guys have requested it. If you're watching right now and you have anything specific that you want to know about dating, please leave it in the comments below. I read all the comments and I'll gladly take it into consideration. But I'm going to speak about this part specifically. Are there Paraguayan girls who speak good English? Yes. Like I said, you're young, upper class population generally speaks good English, and that will for the most part be your available pool, will be that college educated younger girl. By young, I don't mean that young, probably ranging between the ages of say 18 and 32, call it 35. You've got a solid selection within that range. A lot of those girls will be what we might call here an asuncieta, or a girl who is very high maintenance, let's just say. Some of you might be cool with that. Some of you might not want that. Some of these girls might be a little bit more on the sugar baby side. That's not to say all of them though. I wouldn't even say the majority are that way. Majority of girls who speak English are totally normal girls. However, when you take this entire population of girls who speak English and then you exclude the ones who are below your standards physically, that's up to your own interpretation to determine what that is. What you're left with, all things considered, is a relatively small pool of available options. I'm not going to go too deep on this topic because I want to save some meat for my dating video, although I mean that thing will probably be long as hell anyways, and I'll have a bunch of other stuff to talk about. But just keep that in mind. Without knowing Spanish, you can find girls who speak English, but the girls who speak English who are pretty enough for you, who are also pretty enough for you, you're not going to have a massive pool to pick from. How to meet those girls? Generally, I recommend just getting around other foreigners. and just consulting with them and kind of getting around those circles. A lot of those girls hang out with foreigners as well by default. That may or may not be a good thing for you. You might not care if she's been with other foreigners. You might care. You might want a girl who is very traditionally Paraguayan, or you might be okay with a girl that's a little bit more westernized and a little bit more progressive. I will say the girls who are young, educated, and speak English do tend to be a little bit more progressive, so keep that in mind. But yeah, start making some friends and you'll find out how to meet those girls. You might find some on dating apps too. I've heard mixed opinions on that. But yeah, that's the girls who speak English. Now, in terms of dating a girl who doesn't speak English, I recommend you to get to at least a level of Spanish to where Spanish can be the default language within the relationship. Meaning, instead of she defaulting to English to communicate with you, you default to Spanish to communicate with her. Reason for is twofold. One, your Spanish is going to improve drastically. If this girl is in your life on a frequent basis, she's helping you, she's being like a tour guide for you, she's helping you, learn your way around the city, learn your way around the culture, throwing in some Guarani while she's at it, you're going to improve in terms of your Spanish, in terms of your overall command for Paraguayan culture very, very fast. She might try, like the girls that they want to make you feel good, like they want to be, polite to you, and in doing so, she might really try to bend her back to speak English with you. I recommend you to, sure, if you, in a perfect world, it might be a 50-50, but usually it's not a 50-50. Usually it's one or the other, and I recommend you to try to make it to where you're speaking Spanish more. Another reason for that, let's be real. As men, we tend to be a little bit less expressive with our words and more expressive with our actions. Women tend to be more expressive with their words and less expressive with their actions. So she's going to be able to communicate herself a little bit more and be herself a little bit more, and vent to you when there's drama at work, right? She can tell you some chisme. You might not understand 100% of it, but at least you're giving her the opportunity you're giving her that role in her life of being the open ears in her native language. And again, in doing so, you're going to improve your Spanish a bunch. And this might be debatable. I'll go more into this on my dating video when I make it. I think it allows you, from an attraction standpoint, it allows you to not talk your way out of good things. Like, let's be real. Some guys, they show up on the first date and they're just yapping the girl's ear off, asking her a bunch of random questions, and the vibe just isn't there. But if the vibe is like, okay, first date, second date, let's grab some dinner, we're speaking Spanish, show me around, teach me some Spanish, do the talking, I'll listen, I'll try my best to communicate, but it's like you keep a little bit of mystery. You know what I mean? She can't know your whole life story yet because your Spanish isn't good enough to explain it yet. And it leaves a little bit more to be desired. And it just creates that frame to where she can invest into you by helping you associate with Paraguay and get better at living in Paraguay. So yeah, that's just my personal recommendation. Take that for what you will. But I would say if you speak zero Spanish, don't even worry about dating until you've gotten light conversational, right? To where you can kind of know-ish what the person is saying. That part doesn't take that long. You can go to Spanish classes for a month and easily accomplish that. Or you can just make a couple local friends and have them help you. You can get there pretty fast. But if it's before then, don't settle for showing up on a date. You speak zero Spanish, she speaks zero English, and you're communicating with Google Translate on your phone. Just don't date at that point, you know what I mean? Or find a girl who speaks English, if you're cool with that. But I know a lot of you guys want that very traditional Paraguayan who can really, who can really culturally immerse you. And a part of her culturally immersing you is her teaching you Spanish. But in order to even start, you have to know at least a little bit so you can at least get your foot in the door without passing around the dang phone, dude. I mean, I speak from a privileged position being somebody who's a native Spanish speaker, but bro, sometimes if I see that shit in public, I'm just like, dang, dude, what are you doing? Just go learn, like, bro, go to class for a month and then you won't have to do that anymore. It's not that hard. So I probably just spent way more time on dating than I think I need to, but I know a lot of you guys want to learn about it, so you're welcome for that. Aside from that, I'm just gonna go back and give an overall synopsis. To cap it all off, you'll be fine. Again, you're probably staying in a nice part of Asuncion. Any text message you can translate. The menu you can translate with ChatGPT. I still recommend you to actually try to read the menu, right? Whenever I see my foreigner friends do that, I kind of laugh at them. I get it. I can't relate to their struggle, but come on, like at least ask me. Like I'm sitting right there next to you. Like ask me what it says so that way you can learn throughout the process. And yeah, you will get your daily needs met. You won't not have friends. You won't be completely lost. However, you will be one step away from what is like really immersing yourself into Paraguay. And another point that I made before, again, if you have an important transaction that needs to be made, try to bring a trusted friend or a trusted contact. Ideally somebody who is unbiased, somebody who does not have skin in the game, meaning they don't work for the person that you're transacting with. And yeah, that's generally it. Learn Spanish. If you need recommendations for Spanish classes or Spanish schools, let me know. I know of multiple contacts there. Specifically, if you're somebody who lives here full time and has the bandwidth to attend classes every morning, Monday through Friday, I have a really good contact for you. Or if you're somebody who needs something more flexible, I can get you connected as well. So that's it. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? If you are someone here in Paraguay, how have you found it being somebody who doesn't speak Spanish? Have you found it difficult? You know, what are some of the challenges that you've had to overcome? Please share your experience in the comments from anybody else who can learn from it. And then B, what are some ways that you went about overcoming those differences and getting better at Spanish? Maybe other ways to get better at Spanish that I haven't even mentioned that could be useful to other viewers. And yeah, that's it. Reach out to me on Instagram at EstebanExpat in case you ever want to reach out to me directly or learn about anything that I've got going on. And eso es todo. Espero verles acá en Asunción, Paraguay, hablando español de lo más bien, porque es un país muy lindo, con una cultura impresionante y lo único que nos separa es las palabras. See ya. Chao, chao.